Hey there, wherever you are right now, and whatever kind of day you've had, you made it here. And maybe that's exactly what you needed. Maybe your mind feels a little too full, or maybe the silence around you is too loud. Whether you're lying in bed, curled up on the couch, or just trying to let go of the day, you're in the right place. This isn't your typical history lesson. Tonight, we're not memorizing dates or reciting names. No, tonight, we're stepping into a world long buried beneath dust and time. A world of clay and stone, lore and legend. A city built on the backs of thousands, ruled by gods and kings. Welcome to ancient Babylon. But this journey isn't about what made Babylon beautiful. It's about why you, with all your modern comforts, wouldn't survive a single day there, from brutal punishments to scorching heat, sacred rituals to terrifying diseases. Babylon was no place for the weak. But tonight, you don't have to survive it. You only have to listen. Let your body rest. Let your thoughts slow. Let this story wash over you like a warm wind blowing through time. And before we begin, if you enjoy falling asleep to stories like this, or simply love drifting through history with your eyes closed, take a moment to subscribe. It helps more than you know, and it means you'll never miss a single journey we take together. All right, take a breath, deeper now. Let your world fade away as we travel together into the dust, the heat, the danger of ancient Babylon. You open your eyes and everything feels different. The air is thick, warm, and smells faintly of clay and burning oil. Your feet are bare against the packed earth floor, and the woven fabric brushing your skin is rough, far from your usual cotton pajamas. Welcome to ancient Babylon. It's about 4,000 years before your time. And no, there's no Wi-Fi, no electricity, no air conditioning, no Starbucks, no toothpaste, and not a single clean bathroom in sight. You're not in Kansas anymore. In fact, you're somewhere around modern-day Iraq, by the slow, snaking Euphrates River. And if you're thinking you'll be fine, well, you won't, because surviving even one day in ancient Babylon, that's not just unlikely, it's practically impossible. Let's take it one slow, sleepy step at a time. The first thing you notice is the noise, not from cars or machines, but animals. Cows braying, goats screaming, chickens clucking, and people. So many people, already awake, already shouting in a language you don't understand. Akkadian, maybe Sumerian. Whatever it is, it sounds sharp and urgent. Your stomach growls. You look around, hoping for breakfast. A coffee maybe, a slice of toast? Not a chance. Someone hands you a small wooden bowl of barley porridge. It's cold, lumpy, and smells a little off. You force it down because what else can you do? Out in the streets, the heat hits you like a wall. The sun has barely risen, but the narrow alleys between the mud brick houses are already baking. There are no fans, no breezes, only dust. It clings to your face, your arms, your clothes. You try not to scratch. Your skin feels dry, and there's no lotion here. The fabric of your tunic, made from scratchy wool or coarse linen, sticks to you like a second skin. You pass a well, and your mouth waters. But you remember what you've read. Water in ancient times isn't always safe. One sip could introduce you to a world of intestinal misery. Still, you're tempted. As you stumble down a street, you brush past a vendor. He shouts at you. You don't know what he said, but his tone makes it clear. He's not happy. You try to apologize, but how do you apologize when you don't share a language? Welcome to your first cultural mistake. There will be more. You wander, confused. Every building looks the same. Mud brick walls, flat roofs, small windows. A child stares at you, then runs off. You keep walking until you hear the sound of drumming. A ritual, a gathering. Curiosity pulls you in, but it's not for you. You're not welcome. You're not part of their world. You don't know the customs the rules, the unspoken codes. And ignorance, it's dangerous. There's a reason Hammurabi's code existed. One of the oldest legal systems in human history. It was written in stone, literally. And if you make a mistake, let's just say an eye for an eye wasn't a metaphor. Here, even small infractions, stepping on someone's grain, bumping a merchant's cart, could lead to lashes, fines, or worse. You try to blend in, but you stand out. Your skin is too clean. Your hair is too soft. Your hands have no calluses. You're too modern. And that's a problem. You pass a marketplace. The smells hit you hard, not the mouth-watering kind. More like rotting fish, unwashed bodies, and burning animal fat. Flies buzz around meat hanging in the sun. You turn away. Your stomach churns. But this is daily life. For them, it's normal. For you, it's a waking nightmare. As the sun climbs higher, you search for shade. But there's little to find, and the heat doesn't care about your comfort. You feel dizzy, you're sweating through your clothes, and no one seems to notice you fading. Somehow, you make it to a shaded corner of a courtyard. You sit. You close your eyes. You wonder how people managed this, day after day, year after year. But they did. And this? This is only the beginning. You've only been awake in ancient Babylon for a few hours, and already you feel like you've walked a lifetime. Your muscles ache. The heat clings to you like a wet blanket. Your head swims with unfamiliar sounds and smells. You're not sure what time it is, but the sun is higher now, almost overhead, casting short shadows and baking the mud brick streets to a shimmering glow. You need help. You need guidance. But who do you ask? There are no tourist centers in Babylon. No guidebooks, no friendly voice offering directions. Just the low hum of a city that's been alive for centuries before you arrived and will continue long after you're gone. Someone points toward the tall ziggurat, the massive stepped temple rising in the distance like a mountain made by human hands. Maybe that's where answers are. Maybe that's where the important people live. Priests, scribes, the ones who know the rules. So you begin walking toward it, squinting against the light. The streets are confusing. They twist and double back, more like paths between sand dunes than anything planned. You pass a group of workers hauling baskets of clay. They look at you briefly, then keep moving, their faces blank, tired, sunburned. You keep walking. A dog barks at you from behind a wall. A woman with a woven basket full of dates pushes past you, muttering something you don't understand. She smells of sweat and crushed herbs. Her eyes are sharp, watching your every move. You're a stranger, and strangers stand out. After what feels like hours, you reach the temple district. The noise is different here. Quieter, but not silent. Chanting drifts through the air, rhythmic, ancient, steady. Incense burns from clay pots, releasing a sharp, smoky fragrance that makes your nose twitch and your eyes water. A young boy, no more than 10, sits cross-legged on a mat by the temple gate, scratching symbols into a clay tablet with a thin reed. His movements are precise, careful, focused. You pause, watching. This is a scribe in training, a future keeper of knowledge. He looks up at you, curious, but he says nothing. Inside the outer courtyard of the temple, you find more scribes, older now. Men with sun-worn faces and ink-stained fingers, bent over tables made of stone and wood. They press styluses into damp clay, forming rows of tiny wedge-shaped symbols. Cuneiform, Babylon's written language. A code you can't begin to decipher. You try to speak, to ask something, anything. But your words hang useless in the hot air. The scribes barely look up. You don't belong here. Still, you follow the flow of movement deeper into the temple grounds. Guards stand at key points, wearing tunics dyed in faded blues and reds. Their hands rest on short bronze swords. Their eyes never stop scanning. You lower your gaze. Keep moving. Eventually, you find yourself in the shadow of the ziggurat itself, a massive towering structure made of mud brick and bitumen, its sides sloped, its edges sharp, its presence overwhelming. The air here feels heavier, sacred. A priest passes you. He's dressed in fine wool robes, layered and fringed, decorated with symbols you don't recognize. His head is shaved, his expression stern. He carries a bundle of scrolls tied with twine. He doesn't see you, or pretends not to. The temple isn't a place of worship the way you might expect. It's not full of pews or choirs. It's part office, part archive, part laboratory, and yes, part holy space. But its holiness is practical. The gods must be fed, bathed, clothed. Statues are anointed with oils. Prayers are recited in a careful order. Everything follows a rhythm, one set centuries ago and followed without question. You begin to understand something. Life in Babylon isn't freeform. It's a system, a machine. Every person, every act, every object has its place. Step out of line and the whole balance wobbles. You're not a part of that system, so you feel it. That subtle, growing pressure in your chest. Not fear exactly, but disorientation. Like walking into a maze where every turn feels more unfamiliar than the last. A bell rings, low and deep. The priest stops. The scribes stand. The guards stiffen. Something is about to begin. A ceremony, maybe. You follow the movement into a wide-open courtyard, where a statue of the god Marduk, the supreme deity of Babylon, stands surrounded by candles and offerings, baskets of grain, jars of honey, bowls of blood-red wine. The priest chants something in Akkadian, voice slow and deliberate. The scribes echo him, writing as he speaks. It's not for show. This is a record of devotion, of ritual, of obedience. You stand at the edge, silent. And then, a moment of stillness. Everyone bows. You try to copy them, but it's awkward. You bend too late, rise too early. A nearby child giggles. You flush with heat that has nothing to do with the sun. You're not invisible here. You step away, slowly, carefully. The ceremony continues, but you've seen enough. The temple isn't where you belong. You're not a scribe, not a priest, not a guard. You're no one. You walk back into the streets, and there, you see it, written into the walls, the corners, the everyday routines, the rules. Rules about how much grain a worker is owed, how many goats equal one measure of silver, what punishment fits a broken contract, who inherits what when someone dies, rules about marriage, about adoption, about theft, about debt. Everything is written. Everything is watched. This isn't just a city. It's a world governed by tablets and codes. And if you break the rules, there's no court date, no lawyer. Just swift judgment. Maybe public lashes. Maybe a fine. Maybe worse. You think back to your own world. Your messy, loud, unpredictable world. And suddenly it seems soft, forgiving, kind. Here, life is precise, demanding, heavy. Your mouth is dry. You haven't had water in hours, but you're afraid to drink. You pass a boy filling a jar at a well and glance at the water. It's cloudy. You know what that means. Microbes, bacteria, diseases with names you'll never learn in this time. But thirst doesn't care about fear. You crouch beside the well and dip your fingers in. The water is warm, tastes like dust. You take the smallest sip and wait. Your stomach grumbles, not in hunger this time, but in warning. A rumble of unease rolls through your gut. You remember, Babylon didn't have antibiotics, or Imodium, or clean hospitals. If you fall sick, you're at the mercy of the gods, or their stand-ins, the temple physicians. Medicine in Babylon is part science, part sorcery. Diagnoses are based on symptoms and omens. Treatments involve herbs, yes, but also incantations, rituals, even animal sacrifice. You feel your stomach twist again. Maybe it's the water, maybe it's fear, maybe it's the weight of a world too different, too strict, too ancient to make sense. You find a quiet spot in the shade of a wall. Sit down, hug your knees, breathe. People pass by uninterested. You are just one figure in the dust, another soul caught in the slow, grinding rhythm of a city that never stops, never questions, never forgives. You close your eyes, try to rest, and maybe, just maybe, when you open them again, you'll be back where you belong. But not yet. Not today. Because your journey through Babylon has only just begun. You don't remember falling asleep, but when your eyes open again, the light has changed. It's warmer, softer, the golden hour before sunset. Long shadows stretch across the dusty road. The heat has eased, but the air is still thick, heavy with the weight of the day. Your mouth is dry. Your limbs feel heavy. And worst of all, your stomach is still turning, not with hunger, but with something darker. A deep, churning discomfort that spreads in slow, uneasy waves. You sit up. Something isn't right. Your breath is shallow. Your skin is damp. The sip of water from the well. Was it poisoned? Infected? Or is your body simply not ready for the ancient world? You try to stand, but your knees wobble. The world tilts slightly. A group of men pass by, talking in low voices. You try to speak, to call out, but your throat closes. Panic rises. A sharp cough escapes your lips. Your body bends in protest. You feel something between nausea and pain. Then, someone grabs your arm. A hand, dry, firm, strong. You look up. A middle-aged man, wrapped in clean linen robes. Eyes narrowed, face unreadable. His beard is neatly trimmed. There's a leather pouch at his side, filled with small clay jars. You recognize him instinctively. A healer, a doctor. He doesn't speak your language, not exactly, but he knows sickness when he sees it. He smells your breath, feels your forehead. His brow furrows. He mutters something to an assistant, a younger boy with a bundle of reeds and papyrus scrolls. Together, they lift you gently and carry you toward a small room built into the side of the temple wall. It smells of incense, sweat, and dried herbs. This is no hospital. There are no beds, no machines, no sterile gloves. Just a mat, a low table, and dozens of clay tablets stacked on wooden shelves, each covered in wedge-like carvings. The doctor lowers you onto the mat. You try to speak, but your voice comes out hoarse and weak. He lights a piece of resin over a small flame. The smoke curls around the room. He waves it toward you, watching your reaction. Then he opens a jar, a thick, bitter paste of unknown ingredients, and smears a bit on your chest. It smells like crushed garlic and river mud. He leans close, whispers something in Akkadian. A prayer? A spell? Then he reaches for one of the tablets. You watch as the assistant reads it aloud, slowly, carefully. It's not just a list of symptoms. It's a diagnosis and a divination. Your fate isn't just written in your body. It's written in the stars, in the liver of a sacrificed goat, in the flight of birds, in dreams. Here in Babylon, illness is not just physical, it is spiritual. You are not simply sick, you are under attack. The doctor reaches for another jar, filled with black powder, and blows a small puff across your chest. He nods slowly. His voice is low now, more urgent. He believes you've been cursed, or worse, possessed. You want to laugh, or cry, or explain. But none of your modern words matter here. They see what they see. A foreigner, speaking strange, sounds, collapsing in the street. To them, there's only one answer, a demon. Not the kind with horns and fire, not some devil with red eyes and claws. No, Babylonian demons are older, more subtle. Spirits of sickness, of rot, of fever, of madness. They have names, Labasu, Idpa, Lamashtu, each with their own signs, their own symptoms. Some are angry, some jealous, some simply cruel. You wonder which one they think has you. The assistant begins grinding something in a small stone bowl. Roots, bark, maybe even dried animal parts. The doctor hums under his breath. He presses a cool cloth to your forehead. Despite everything, you start to feel drowsy. The smoke, the chanting, the warmth of the cloth. It draws you downward. You don't fight it. Not yet. You wake again to the sound of whispering. The room is darker now, lit only by flickering oil lamps. You're lying on your side. The pain in your stomach has dulled, replaced by a strange sense of floating. Not relief. Not exactly. But numbness. The doctor is still there. He kneels beside you, hands folded. The assistant stands nearby, holding a bowl of water mixed with crushed herbs. The doctor dips a reed into the mixture and traces a symbol on the ground beside you. A spiral, a triangle, a shape you don't recognize. A protective sign. They aren't just treating your body. They're building a wall. A spiritual shield. You hear a new voice, a priest, older, dressed in black and gold. He enters silently, eyes glowing in the lamplight. He carries a bronze censer. Smoke billows out as he moves in slow, practiced steps around you. He begins to chant. The room shifts. Your skin prickles. You don't know if it's the smoke or suggestion, or something else entirely. But the air feels thicker now, pressed in, as if something is here, something watching. The priest steps closer. He dips a brush into red pigment and draws a line down the center of your forehead. Another symbol, another layer of protection. Then, just as quickly, he's gone. The doctor sighs and presses his hand gently to your chest. His voice is softer now, less ritual, more human. You realize, beneath the layers of ceremony and superstition, this man is trying to help, with what he knows, with what he's been taught. And you are at his mercy. You close your eyes. Let the warmth wash over you. Let the herbs and chants and symbols do their work. Whether it's medicine or magic, you need it. Hours pass, maybe more. At some point, the fever breaks. You sweat, tremble. Then, slowly, your breathing evens out. The nausea eases. Your vision clears. The doctor sits nearby, watching. He nods. You're not healed, but you've passed some kind of test. You're still alive. He pours water into a clay cup and holds it to your lips. This water is different, clean, cooled with mint and something sharp like vinegar. You sip it slowly. You manage a small nod of thanks. He doesn't respond with words, just a calm, satisfied gaze. He picks up a small tablet and begins to write. Another record, another entry in the endless archive of Babylonian life. Another sick traveler, another strange case, another story etched into clay. By morning, you can sit up. The nausea is gone. Your muscles still ache, but the world feels real again. Tangible, stable. The doctor offers you a small piece of flatbread and a handful of dried figs. Your first meal in Babylon. You eat slowly. Outside, the temple bells ring again. A new day has begun, and you, for now, are still part of it. You rise, carefully. The assistant helps you to the doorway. The street is waking up again. Merchants, children, workers. Life continues. You look back, at the doctor one last time. He nods, not a farewell, a warning. This world is not safe, not predictable, not made for you, but you are in it now. And the next test is coming. You wake early, stiff and sore, but alive. The city hums outside your shelter. Babylon is stirring again. its voices rising in layers, a baby crying, hooves clacking on stone. The hollow ring of bronze as a blacksmith begins his day. But there is another sound today, louder and more insistent. A bell. Not the one from the temple. This one rings in short, rhythmic bursts. A warning, a summons. You step outside and follow the crowd. People are moving quickly, but not with panic, with curiosity, excitement, even anticipation. The square outside the ziggurat is filling with people. A platform has been raised. At the center, flanked by two men in thick robes, stands a trembling figure. His hands are bound. His eyes dart. He is young, maybe 17. A thief. He was caught stealing grain from the temple storehouse, someone whispers. A serious offense. Not because of the grain, but because of where it was stolen from. The temple is not just a place of worship. It is the heart of the city, a bank, a court, a warehouse, a symbol of divine order. To steal from it is to spit in the face of the gods. You hear footsteps. Another figure ascends the platform. He wears robes dyed deep blue, the color of authority. A judge, not a priest. This man serves Hammurabi's code, not the gods. A scroll is unrolled. The judge speaks clearly, slowly, his voice projecting across the crowd. He lists the crime, the location, the time. Then he pauses. The sentence is already written. It was written centuries ago. If a man steals from the temple or the palace, he shall be put to death. The crowd doesn't cheer. They simply watch. Justice is not entertainment here. It is ritual, sacred, inevitable. But the judge is not finished. He asks the accused a question. The young man sobs. He admits guilt, but he begs, not for freedom, but for mercy, not for himself, for his mother. She is old, blind. He steals to keep her alive. The judge listens. Then he speaks again. The law is clear, he says, but the law also allows for substitutions. Let the thief be spared, the judge declares, if another takes his place. A murmur spreads. This is rare. No one volunteers until, from the edge of the crowd, a woman cries out. She is bent and shaking, her eyes milky with blindness. She walks forward alone. The mother. The crowd parts, silent, unbelieving. She climbs the steps with trembling feet and stands beside her son. The judge watches. His eyes narrow. He gestures. The guards step forward, not to seize her, but to lift her, gently. The judge raises his hand. The law is fulfilled. The thief collapses in tears. But the sentence is not death. The woman is led away, not to execution, but to a life of labor in the temple kitchens. A punishment, but not an end. The law has spoken. The city exhales. Justice in Babylon is not always cruel, but it is never blind. You remain in the square long after the crowd disperses. The sun is rising. You think of your own world, your own laws, your own justice. You wonder which is harsher, and which one you'd choose if you had to. You wake as the sun begins to fade behind low clouds. The city around you feels different now, quieter, but somehow heavier. Not because of the dust or the heat, but because of what lurks just beyond. Sight, the unseen, the unknown. In Babylon, shadows aren't just the absence of light. They're the home of spirits, demons, and gods who watch, judge, and interfere in your fate. You try to shake off the feeling, but it clings to your skin like the grime of the marketplace. As you step out, you hear the chatter, not of merchants or children, but of whispered warnings and hurried prayers. Babylonians lived in a world where every cough might be a curse, every illness a sign of divine wrath. Disease wasn't a bug or bacteria, but the work of evil spirits sent by angry gods or jealous neighbors. You remember a phrase you overheard earlier. the evil eye. They believe someone could curse you just by looking at you with envy. It sounds absurd, but here, it's terrifyingly real. You spot a woman tying a piece of red thread around her child's wrist. "To ward off the evil eye," she whispers. You wonder if it's enough to keep the invisible dangers at bay. You move toward the temple district, where priests and exorcists hold real power. Their job isn't just to lead rituals or offer sacrifices, but to fight these invisible threats. They carry clay tablets inscribed with magical spells, worn from years of use. Every word is a weapon, every symbol a shield. You watch as one priest mumbles an incantation over a sick man. The man's body twitches, sweat pouring down his face. The priest sprinkles water mixed with herbs. To you, it looks like superstition. To them, it's hope. You want to believe you could survive here, but the truth is brutal. No amount of knowledge or bravery will protect you from the unseen. At the market, you see a man inspecting a goat's entrails, reading the patterns to predict the future. It's called haruspicy, and it's how decisions are made, from marriage to war. You think about your own life, your own certainty of cause and effect. Here, the gods play dice, and the dice are loaded with your fate. As evening falls, you find yourself at the edge of the city, near the river. The Euphrates flows quietly, but the people fear what it carries. Spirits of the dead, wandering souls, and water demons. You hear stories whispered around fires, children stolen by water spirits, fishermen dragged under the currents, villagers cursed to madness. You pull your cloak tighter. The night will be long and full of eyes you cannot see. Because in Babylon, surviving isn't just about dodging sickness or hunger. It's about escaping the shadows. And the shadows don't forgive. You wake up before dawn, when the city is still, cloaked in a cool grey haze. The air feels heavy with dust and the faint scent of smoke from cooking fires. Your limbs ache before you even stand. Your body isn't accustomed to the long day ahead. But here in Babylon, it's work or starve. You pull your rough linen tunic over your head, coarse and scratchy against your skin. The fabric has been patched and washed countless times, but the damp smell of sweat lingers. Your sandals are worn, barely holding together. Every step on the packed earth makes you think twice. Outside, the city is stirring. Voices rise in a low murmur, mixed with the braying of donkeys and the clatter of wooden carts. You head to the street, feeling the heat of the morning sun beginning to press down. Your destination, the city's massive brickworks. Babylon isn't just famous for its towering walls or the legendary hanging gardens. It's a city built by the backs of thousands like you. The mud bricks, the roads, the temples, all come from your hands. As you reach the kiln, the first thing that hits you is the heat, not the forgiving warmth of the sun, but an almost unbearable furnace blast. It seeps into your skin, making your muscles tense and your breath quicken. You wipe the sweat from your brow with the back of your arm and grasp a heavy block of wet clay. This clay isn't soft or smooth. It's gritty and full of pebbles, hard to mold without cracking. Your fingers ache as you press the clay into wooden molds, shaping bricks that will harden in the fire. The day is long and the work is relentless. Your hands blister and crack. Your back screams under the weight of carrying stacked bricks to the drying racks. The sun beats down with no mercy, and the only water comes from a small jug you share with a fellow worker. Conversations are few. Words are saved for those who share the same pain. The work is unforgiving, and mistakes mean punishment. One false move could mean a whip across your back. You've heard stories. Some say slaves work the hardest, but even free workers aren't safe. The overseers are brutal, quick to lash out if productivity drops. As noon approaches, the heat becomes suffocating. You look out and see the Euphrates River sparkling far in the distance, a glimmer of relief. But there's no time for rest. Another batch of bricks needs to be shaped and stacked. Your body feels like it's on fire. sweat soaking into your tunic. The coarse fabric sticks to your skin, chafing with every movement. The dust and grime settle into your pores, making your face feel rough and dry. At midday, you manage a small break. Sitting under a scraggly tree, you pull out a simple meal, a handful of flatbread, some dried fish, and a few olives. The food is bland and tough, but it fills the emptiness in your stomach. You drink water slowly, mindful that it may be contaminated. You've seen others fall ill after drinking from the river or wells. You think about your family, if they are safe, if they have enough to eat. You wonder if they are working just as hard, or if they are struggling even more. Afternoon drags on like a heavy stone. Your movements slow, your arms tremble with exhaustion. You watch the sky darken slightly with clouds that promise rain, but the relief feels distant. The brick kiln fires need tending, and you join the men stoking the flames. The smoke stings your eyes and lungs. Each breath is a struggle. Despite everything, you can't stop. If you do, there's no pay, no food, no shelter. You return home only after the sun dips below the horizon. Your hands are raw and bleeding in places. Your feet ache inside your sandals. Your face is caked with grime. But the city never truly sleeps. In the distance, you hear voices raised in prayer and celebration. The priests perform rituals to appease the gods, hoping for better harvests, less disease, and protection from enemies. You long to join them, but know your place. Your survival depends on tomorrow's labor, not the temple's promises. As you lie down on your thin mattress made from woven reeds and animal skins, you close your eyes. The ache in your muscles whispers a cruel lullaby. Tomorrow, you will rise again, and the cycle will repeat. You realize that surviving a day in Babylon as a worker is a brutal test of endurance, where every moment is a struggle against the elements, exhaustion, and the merciless demands of those above you. And yet, this is the foundation of a great civilization, built on sweat, pain, and the unyielding spirit of its people. You wake to a different kind of noise today, the distant chanting of priests, the rhythmic beating of drums, and the metallic clang of bronze ritual tools. The smell of incense curls through the narrow streets, mixing with the ever-present dust and the scent of baking bread. Before you can even open your eyes properly, you remember, here in ancient Babylon, every moment is watched over by the gods. You're not just a person, you are a piece in a vast, divine puzzle. The gods rule the sky, the earth, the rivers, and even your very breath. Their whims govern your fate. Religion isn't something you attend once a week. It's the air you breathe, the soil you till, the water you drink, and the fire you cook with. It's woven into the fabric of your existence. Your first act this morning is to wash your hands in a basin filled with water. Water you're sure has been blessed by a temple priest. A ritual purification to keep evil spirits at bay. You step outside and find your neighbors preparing offerings for the gods. Bowls of barley, dates, and small animals being led to the altars. You're expected to contribute something if you want the gods to smile upon you. The offerings are more than gifts. They're a transaction, a plea, a desperate hope. Babylon's pantheon is vast and complicated. You hear names like Marduk, the city's patron god, powerful and commanding. Ishtar, goddess of love and war, fierce and unpredictable. The god of wisdom and fresh water, keeper of magic and knowledge. Each god has a temple, each temple a priesthood with secrets you dare not question. You make your way toward the temple district, huge ziggurats towering over the city, their stepped terraces reaching toward the heavens. The stones of these structures still smell faintly of baked clay and sacred oils. The temple courtyard is bustling. Priests clad in white linen robes move gracefully, performing rites you barely understand. Some chant prayers, others prepare sacrifices. You can see the flicker of torches despite the daylight, illuminating sacred symbols carved into stone. You feel a mix of awe and fear. The gods are powerful, unpredictable. One wrong word, one misstep in a ritual, and disaster could strike. You notice an old woman sitting nearby, weaving strange knots into cords, an apotropaic magic meant to ward off evil. You want to ask her about the spells, but the language barrier is real. Still, her eyes catch yours, and you feel the weight of ancient knowledge hidden behind her wrinkled smile. Suddenly, a commotion breaks out near the medicine stall. A man has brought his sick son, fever burning bright in his eyes. Babylonian medicine is a curious mixture of observation and superstition. There are healers trained in the knowledge of herbs and remedies, but also magicians and priests who perform incantations and exorcisms. You watch as the healer mixes crushed roots and honey, applying the paste to the boy's skin. The priest begins a chant, calling on the gods to expel the evil spirit causing the illness. You realize that here, science and magic are inseparable. Disease isn't just a physical ailment, it's a spiritual invasion. You wonder if you would be treated with such care, or if you'd be left to suffer in silence. The day moves on, and you notice more signs of this deeply spiritual life. Amulets hang from necks and wrists, tiny carved stones or bits of metal inscribed with divine symbols. People touch these charms as if drawing strength. In marketplaces, merchants sell herbs like garlic, coriander, and myrrh, believed to have healing and protective properties. In the homes, you glimpse families reading from clay tablets inscribed with prayers and spells, hoping to protect themselves from curses and misfortune. At night, the city glows with flickering fires and torches, and you hear whispered tales of demons lurking in the shadows, waiting to snatch the unwary. You lie down under the open sky, looking up at the stars. To Babylonians, the heavens were a divine map, a guide to fate. The priests studied the movements of planets and stars, interpreting omens that could change the course of a king's reign or a farmer's harvest. You feel both comforted and terrified. You are part of something far greater, yet powerless to control it. As sleep pulls you under, you wonder, could you ever survive a day without the protection of these gods, without the rituals, the magic, the prayers? In Babylon, the line between life and death is razor thin, and the gods hold the scales. You approach the massive gates of the royal palace, and suddenly, the city noise dulls to a distant hum. The air here is heavier, scented with incense and polished stone, not dust and sweat. This is where power lives. The Palace of Babylon is a sprawling labyrinth of courtyards, gardens, throne rooms, and hidden chambers. Walls rise high, built from sun-dried bricks glazed in dazzling blue and gold. It's an architectural marvel, meant to impress subjects and intimidate enemies. As you step inside, guards clad in bronze armor eye you carefully. You are no one. Here, just an outsider, wandering in a world of kings, nobles, and schemers. The palace is alive with movement. Servants rush past, carrying trays of exotic fruits and fragrant oils. Musicians tune their lyres in a cool hallway, while scribes hastily copy documents in dimly lit chambers. At the heart of it all sits the king, a figure both majestic and terrifying. You catch a glimpse of him on a raised throne, his beard carefully braided, his eyes sharp and calculating. This is no mere ruler. He is a living god on earth, a man who commands armies and decides life and death with a flick of his hand. But beneath the royal splendor, tension crackles like a hidden fire. You overhear hushed conversations about plots and betrayals. Nobles jockey for influence, whispering poison into the king's ear. Alliances are fragile, made and broken over banquets and backroom meetings. You watch a royal advisor lean close to the king, speaking in low tones. The advisor's eyes flicker with ambition and fear. You realize that no one here is truly safe. Even a whisper of dissent could end in exile, imprisonment, or worse. Power is intoxicating but deadly. You follow a corridor into the women's quarters, a maze of private rooms and gardens where the king's wives and concubines live. Their lives are gilded cages, filled with a luxury but ruled by strict hierarchies and jealousy. You see women weaving delicate fabrics and practicing songs to entertain the king. Their laughter is soft, but you sense undercurrents of rivalry and survival. In one corner, a woman stares out a window, her eyes distant. She is a queen in name, but a prisoner in practice. You wonder how many secrets these walls have swallowed. Outside, the palace gardens are an oasis, pools filled with lotus, flowers, date palms swaying gently, and the scent of jasmine thick in the air. Here, courtiers stroll in silk robes, exchanging news and flattery. You overhear snippets of conversation, rumors of foreign armies gathering, trade deals with distant lands, and the king's plans to expand his empire. In the great hall, a feast is underway. Tables groan under plates of roasted lamb, flatbreads, and dates soaked in honey. Wine flows freely from ornate clay jars. The music swells, dancers whirl, and the king's laughter echoes through the room. But you know better than to be fooled. Beneath the celebration lurks tension. A single word could turn allies into enemies. A slip of the tongue could mean death. You notice the palace guards, vigilant, unblinking, always watching. You try to blend in, but you're an outsider, your every move scrutinized. You wonder how the king manages the constant pressure, balancing loyalty and fear, justice and cruelty. As night deepens, the palace becomes quieter, but the intrigue does not end. Whispers echo through hidden passages. Figures move in the shadows, carrying messages, plotting coups, and seeking favor. You realize the royal court is a living, breathing drama where every gesture counts and every word can change history. You feel the weight of it all pressing down on you, the brilliance and the darkness intertwined. Could you navigate this treacherous world? Could you survive the shifting alliances and ruthless ambition? Or would you fall victim to the deadly dance of power in ancient Babylon's royal court? As you leave the palace behind, you carry with you a deeper understanding of a civilization shaped not just by laws and gods, but by the complex and dangerous human desires that still echo through time. You step away from the glittering palace, away from the fragrant gardens and murmurs of power, and enter a different Babylon, the one beneath the grandeur, the one few outsiders ever see. Here the streets are narrower, dustier, and filled with the sounds of relentless labor. This is the city's backbone. The laborers, craftsmen, and slaves who build, clean, and toil. The pulse that keeps Babylon's heart beating. The sun is still high, fierce, and unyielding. You can feel its heat seeping into your bones as you watch men dragging heavy loads of mud bricks, the basic building blocks of Babylon. Their muscles strain under the weight, backs bent, faces slick with sweat. You try to imagine doing this all day, every day, with no respite. You see women carrying large baskets filled with clay and grain on their heads, balancing with practiced ease. Their skin is bronzed and cracked from the sun, their hands calloused and raw. Some wear the loose tunics of the working class, others no more than rags. Children run between the legs of workers, some playing, many helping, fetching, water, sweeping dust, or running errands. Childhood here is brief, survival paramount. As you walk deeper into the city's working quarters, the air thickens with dust, smoke from fires, and the sharp tang of animal waste. The stench is constant, a reminder that sanitation is a privilege few enjoy. You stop at a pottery workshop where craftsmen shape clay on spinning wheels. The rhythmic slap of hands on wet clay is oddly hypnotic, but behind the artistry is a brutal routine. Hours bent over hot kilns, dust and smoke choking lungs, fingers cracked and bleeding. Nearby, blacksmiths hammer glowing metal, their faces streaked with soot. Sparks fly, and the heat from the forge is almost unbearable. You watch a man who pauses only long enough to wipe sweat from his brow before plunging back into his work. This is his life, relentless and unforgiving. But not all laborers are free men. Slaves make up a significant part of the workforce. You notice their different clothing, simpler, rougher, and often marked with signs of ownership. Slavery in Babylon is complex. Some are prisoners of war, others debt slaves who sold themselves to survive. Their fate is tied to their master's will. You watch as a group of slaves haul stone blocks for a new city wall. Their pace is brutal, their faces weary but resolute. One young slave, barely more than a teenager, catches your eye. His gaze is hollow, resigned. You wonder about the stories behind those eyes, the family he lost, the dreams abandoned. The laborers live in cramped, crude houses, often shared by several families. Walls are thin mud bricks, floors hard-packed earth. Privacy is a luxury, and comfort almost non-existent. Water is scarce. Most fetch it from the river or wells, carrying heavy jars back to their homes. The river's water is precious, but often polluted, a source of sickness and death. You think about the dangers these workers face daily: accidents with tools or heavy loads, attacks by wild animals, illness from poor sanitation, and the ever-present threat of hunger. Food for laborers is simple: barley bread, some onions or garlic, and occasionally dried fish or lentils. Meals are small and often shared among many mouths. You notice the community's spirit despite hardship. Men share stories and jokes during brief breaks. Women exchange herbs and remedies, passing knowledge through generations. You overhear a tale about a laborer who survived a building collapse, a miracle that spread hope through the quarters. You also hear whispers of rebellion, quiet murmurs, of resentment against the harsh conditions and lack of rights. But such thoughts are dangerous, and the city's guards keep a watchful eye. Despite the brutality, the laborers' work is the foundation of Babylon's grandeur. Without their sweat and sacrifice, there would be no palace, no hanging gardens, no thriving markets. You reflect on the stark contrast, the lavish lives of nobles and the harsh reality of those who built it all. The sun dips lower, casting long shadows over the dusty streets. The laborers begin to return home, exhausted but alive. Another day survived. As night falls, you feel a deep respect for these forgotten souls who carried Babylon's weight on their backs and kept the city's heart beating strong. Could you endure this life? Could you survive the relentless toil, the hunger, the heat, and the fear? Or would you be crushed beneath the weight of Babylon's towering ambition? As you close your eyes, the sounds of hammering and footsteps fade, replaced by the quiet hum of a city that never truly rests. You step into the heart of Babylon's spiritual world, where the boundaries between the seen and unseen blur, and every moment is shadowed by gods both benevolent and terrifying. This isn't just a city, it's a living temple, a place where the divine is woven into the fabric of daily life, whether you want it or not. As the sun rises over the Euphrates, its golden light spills onto towering ziggurats, stepped pyramids that soar toward the heavens, their tops lost in clouds of incense smoke. These colossal structures are not just architectural feats, they're gateways to the gods, massive altars where priests chant ancient prayers to keep the city safe. You find yourself standing at the base of the great Esagila temple, dedicated to Marduk, Babylon's chief god, a deity of creation and order. The temple looms above you, its walls carved with intricate symbols and depictions of gods battling chaotic forces. Here, religion isn't an abstract concept. It's a powerful force that controls every aspect of life, from birth to death, from crops to kingship. Around you, priests and priestesses move with solemn purpose, their voices low and rhythmic as they recite hymns in Akkadian. Their robes rustle softly, adorned with beads and amulets believed to channel divine power. The air smells thick with frankincense and myrrh, a fragrant haze that wraps around you like a sacred shroud. You learn quickly that Babylonian religion is complex and multi-layered. There's a pantheon of gods, over 100, each responsible for different elements of the natural and human world. Anu, the sky god, Enlil, the lord of wind and storms. Ishtar, goddess of love and war. Nabu, god of wisdom and writing. Each god demands respect and fear. You watch as offerings are placed on altars, bowls of honey, bread, and the occasional sacrifice of animals. Blood and grain, the sacred currency of appeasement. It's a transactional world. You give the gods what they want, and they might spare you from famine, plague, or disaster. But this is no simple faith. Behind every blessing is a lurking terror. Babylon is a city built on superstition and the fear of divine wrath. You hear whispers of demons and evil spirits lurking in the shadows, ready to curse the unwary or punish the sinful. Illness, crop failure, misfortune, all blamed on these dark forces or the displeasure of the gods. So Babylon's people live in constant ritual. They consult priests for omens, watch the flight of birds, read entrails of sacrificed animals, all to decipher the will of the gods. You yourself might be dragged to a diviner, where the eerie quiet is broken only by the scratching of a scribe's reed pen and the muttered incantations. You are told of magic, not just superstition, but a real practiced force. Incantations to ward off evil, charms to protect children, spells to ensure a safe journey or a bountiful harvest. Magic here isn't fantasy, it's survival. You imagine yourself holding a small amulet inscribed with cuneiform symbols, pressed into your palm like a talisman against the unknown. Would it protect you, or is it a fragile comfort in a world full of chaos? Your guide points to a stone tablet with the Maklu incantations, a famous Babylonian anti-witchcraft ritual. It describes burning figurines of witches and reciting prayers to destroy evil magic. The fear of witchcraft is real and pervasive. Accusations could mean exile, imprisonment, or death. Religion governs law and justice too. The king is seen as chosen by the gods, a divine intermediary. His power is absolute because it is sanctioned by the heavens. You hear how kings like Hammurabi invoked Marduk's blessing to justify their rule, claiming their laws were divine commands. To disobey the king was to disobey the gods, a dangerous gamble. Every Babylonian's life is marked by religious milestones, birth ceremonies to protect newborns, purification rituals after sickness, funeral rites to guide the dead safely to the afterlife. You learn that the dead must be honored properly, or their restless spirits might haunt the living. You watch a priest perform a kurunu ritual, a sacred bath and anointment meant to cleanse sins and renew one's bond with the gods. The solemnity, the scent of oils, the soft chanting. It's an intimate, profound moment. But with faith comes fear. You see the people's eyes dart nervously at omens, an eclipse, a strange animal sighting, an unexpected storm. All signs that the gods are angry. Panic spreads quickly. You imagine yourself caught in such a moment, heart pounding as the sky darkens unexpectedly. Would you know what to do? Would you run to the temple and offer prayers, or would you freeze in terror? As night falls over Babylon, you realize that the city's gods never truly sleep. The flickering lamps cast dancing shadows on the walls, and you feel the weight of unseen eyes watching. Babylon's religion is a web, tight, intricate, and inescapable. To live here is to live with reverence and dread intertwined, a daily negotiation with powers beyond your understanding. And yet, despite this constant tension, the people of Babylon find comfort in their faith. It's their shield against a harsh world, their hope in uncertainty. You close your eyes, hearing the distant echo of chants rising from the temple, mixing with the night sounds of the city. In this place, ancient, mysterious, and terrifying, the gods are real, and they demand your attention. You awake again in the dusty streets of Babylon, but today you are drawn toward a different kind of temple, not one dedicated to gods, but to knowledge itself. The Aduba, the tablet, house, where scribes are trained and futures are made or broken. Here, education is not a right, it's a privilege. A precious tool wielded by a few, mostly boys from wealthy or influential families, and the key to power, prestige, and survival in a world ruled by strict hierarchies. The moment you enter the schoolroom, you feel a sharp contrast to modern classrooms. There are no desks or colourful posters. Instead, the room is sparse and austere, lined with low benches and tables covered in piles of clay tablets. Your instructor is a stern, grizzled man who carries a wooden stylus, a sharp reed pointed like a pen. His voice is low but commanding, and there's no room for mistakes. You're handed a soft, damp piece of clay and told to write, not with ink or pen, but by pressing the stylus into the clay to create tiny wedge-shaped marks. Cuneiform, one of the earliest writing systems in human history. It's difficult. Your hands are clumsy, the shapes unfamiliar and strange. Each symbol represents a word or a syllable. You must memorize hundreds, maybe thousands of these signs. Your teacher's gaze pierces through you, waiting for perfect execution. You soon realize this is no ordinary lesson. Writing is magic. It's how laws are recorded, how stories are preserved, how merchants keep accounts and priests record prayers. It's how Babylon stays organized. But the pressure is relentless. Mistakes are punished harshly, sometimes with lashes. Your classmates flinch when a boy breaks a tablet or fails to copy a sign correctly. You're taught more than just writing. Mathematics is crucial, and Babylonian math is advanced for its time. You learn to calculate areas of fields, measure volumes, and keep track of debts and trade goods. Numbers are written in a base 60 system. That's why we still have 60 seconds in a minute and 360 degrees in a circle. It's a clever system, but complicated to master. You practice with tables of multiplication, division, and fractions, scribbling numbers on clay and erasing by smoothing the surface. It's tedious, but necessary for commerce, construction, and astronomy. Speaking of astronomy, you also study the stars. Babylonian scribes are among the earliest astronomers, tracking the movements of planets and predicting eclipses. They believe the heavens are messages from the gods, omens you must learn to interpret correctly. Your lessons include religious texts too, hymns, prayers, and mythological stories. You memorize the Epic of Gilgamesh, the world's oldest epic poem, learning about the hero's quest for immortality and the inevitability of death. But what strikes you most is the rigid discipline. There is no room for creativity or personal expression here, just rote memorization and obedience. Your teacher's words echo. A scribe must be perfect. A scribe must serve the gods and the king. Girls are almost entirely excluded from this education. Their world is domestic, managing households, weaving cloth, and raising children. Some might serve as temple priestesses, but most don't learn to read or write. You watch a group of scribes working silently in the back, their faces tense as they inscribe letters and numbers. Their work is vital, their status respected, but their lives constrained by the endless repetition of signs and rules. Outside the school, you see how education shapes Babylon itself. Without scribes, no trade contracts, no legal decrees, no historical records. Without knowledge, the city would crumble into chaos. But you wonder, what would it be like to live under such pressure? To spend every day copying symbols, memorizing texts, living under the constant threat of punishment? You imagine yourself as a student here, fingers stiff and eyes burning from clay dust, heart pounding under your teacher's gaze. Would you endure? Would you survive the harshness? And yet, this education is the backbone of Babylon's legacy. The tablets you see today, buried under millennia of sand, carry the stories, laws, and knowledge that built civilizations. The next time you check your phone or open a book, remember, it all began here, in places like this, with a humble stylus and a slab of clay. As the sun sets on Babylon, you leave the Adubba, your mind full of symbols, numbers, and ancient stories. A reminder that knowledge was power, and education, a battleground. You step away from the silent halls of the Adaba, and the sounds of Babylon's bustling streets grow louder again. But now, your focus shifts to a different kind of institution, the family. In Babylon, the family isn't just a group of people living under one roof. It's the center of everything, your identity, your security, your entire world. But don't picture a cozy household where everyone gathers around a fireplace. Instead, imagine a world ruled by rigid roles, strict hierarchies, and unspoken rules about who holds the real power. At the heart of Babylonian family life stands the patriarch, the oldest man, often the father or grandfather. He is the undisputed head of the household, with nearly absolute authority over his wife, children, slaves, and property. You quickly realize that as a son or daughter, you are expected to obey, honor, and serve this man without question. Your life's direction, your marriage prospects, your very survival depend on his approval. Marriage in Babylon is a contract, legal, binding, and mostly arranged. Love. That's a luxury reserved for stories and songs. Instead, families negotiate alliances, wealth, and status. Dowries are exchanged, and brides are often very young. You might be surprised to learn that women in Babylonian society have some rights. They can own property, inherit land, and conduct business. Yet, in practice, their freedoms are limited. Most women live under the control of their father or husband. Divorce is possible but complicated. A husband can divorce his wife for reasons like disobedience or infertility. A wife could also initiate divorce, but it's rare and socially risky. The daily life of a Babylonian woman revolves around the home, raising children, managing servants or slaves, weaving cloth, cooking and cleaning. Childbirth is perilous, and many mothers lose their babies young. You can almost feel the strain of constant worry and labor. Children are expected to work from a young age. Boys may be sent to the Aduba to train as scribes or apprentices. Girls learn household skills. Childhood isn't long here. Responsibility comes early. As you wander through a Babylonian courtyard, you see how families live crammed together in small mud brick houses. Privacy is minimal. Walls are thin, and everyone overhears conversations, disputes, and daily gossip. The wealthy families enjoy larger homes with gardens, servants, and more comforts. They hold banquets with roasted meats, beer, and sweet dates. But even they live with constant awareness of social status and reputation. Slavery is common, and slaves are considered property, yet sometimes they live with families and even earn freedom. The lines between servant and family member blur in confusing ways. You notice children playing in the streets, boys chasing goats, girls weaving small baskets. But play is brief, work calls quickly. Religion permeates family life. Daily prayers to household gods protect the home. Rituals mark births, marriages, and deaths. The family altar is a sacred space, and death, a constant shadow. Infant, mortality is high. Funerals are somber and elaborate, with mourners tearing their clothes and reciting laments. You start to feel the weight of these social roles pressing down on every individual. The family isn't just a source of comfort, but also of control. The power dynamics shape not only personal lives, but the entire society. You ask yourself, what if you were born here? What if your fate was sealed by your birth family? Could you challenge the system, or would you simply be another cog in Babylon's vast social machine? It's a world where power is inherited, obedience demanded, and survival depends on navigating complex relationships and expectations. As the evening deepens, you leave the courtyard behind, carrying with you the invisible chains of Babylonian family life, a reminder that behind every grand civilization lie countless personal stories of struggle, hope, and survival. You awake to a city transformed. Today isn't just any day in Babylon, it's a festival day. The streets buzz not just with merchants and laborers, but with priests, musicians, and dancers. Banners ripple in the warm breeze, and the air thickens with incense smoke and the scent of roasted lamb. In Babylon, religion isn't something you turn on or off like a light switch. It's woven into the very fabric of existence. The gods don't just watch over the city from a distant throne. They command every breath, every step, every heartbeat. You realize quickly that surviving here means more than just navigating social hierarchies or avoiding disease. It means appeasing the gods constantly. You cannot simply live. You must perform, honor, and sometimes even sacrifice. The Babylonians worship a vast pantheon of gods, each with its own domain and personality. Marduk, the city's chief god, looms largest, a mighty deity who defeated chaos itself to create order from the watery abyss. But alongside him are gods of the sky, the earth, the underworld, the moon, the sun, and the storms. Each god has a temple, priests, rituals, and stories that shape how people understand the world. You watch as the procession begins. Priests clad in white robes carry statues of gods through the streets, accompanied by chanting and the steady beat of drums. The crowd parts respectfully. Some clasp their hands, others raise offerings, small cakes, jars of beer, or woven garlands. You learn that festivals aren't just celebrations. They are essential acts to keep the gods happy and the city safe. The New Year festival, Akitu, is the most important, a time when the king reenacts the creation myth, proving his divine right to rule. It's a powerful reminder that the gods and humans are locked in an eternal dance of power and dependency. You see children watching wide-eyed, elders solemn and reverent, merchants pausing their work. The entire city stops to honor the divine. But religion also comes with fear. The Babylonians believe the gods are unpredictable and sometimes cruel. Misfortune, illness, drought, or invasion is seen as a sign of divine anger. People live in a constant state of vigilance, offering prayers, charms, and rituals to ward off evil. Magic and superstition fill daily life. You overhear a mother whispering protective spells over her child. A merchant consults an astrologer before deciding to travel. The line between religion and magic blurs. Both are tools to navigate an uncertain world. You glimpse into a temple's inner sanctum, where a priest reads omens from animal livers or the stars. These readings guide everything from planting crops to going to war. It's a world ruled by signs and symbols, where every event carries hidden meaning. Sacrifices are common. Sometimes animals, goats, sheep, or bulls, are offered to the gods, their blood poured on altars to seal promises or seek favor. In rare and terrifying instances, humans might be sacrificed to appease divine wrath. A grim reminder of the stakes involved. You feel a chill as you think about how much control the gods have over lives here. Unlike your world, where science and reason provide explanations, Babylon's people live in a cosmos full of mystery, magic, and gods who might strike at any moment. As night falls, the city glows with torchlight. The sounds of music and chanting echo through the streets. The gods are honored, the rituals performed, and the fragile balance maintained. You lie down to rest, but your thoughts linger on the power of belief, how it shaped this ancient world, bound its people, and made survival not just a matter of food or shelter, but faith. And as you drift towards sleep, you wonder, could you ever live under such watchful eyes? Could you find peace knowing every moment is measured by divine expectation? In Babylon, religion is life. And life, here, is never boring. Imagine waking up one morning to the thunderous sound of war drums echoing through Babylon's walls. The city, your home, is suddenly on high alert. Soldiers rush through the streets, merchants close their shops, and families hurry to secure their homes. This is no ordinary day. It's a day when survival depends on your ability to endure the horrors of ancient warfare. Babylon was not just a city of culture and religion. It was a fortress, a prize, and often a battlefield. Defending it wasn't just about having walls. It was about strategy, weapons, and the will to survive amid chaos. As you stand within those massive mud brick walls, towering and imposing, you realize just how vital they were. These walls, some of the widest in the ancient world, were your first shield against enemies. They stretched for miles and rose high above the streets, crowned with battlements where archers waited. But walls alone wouldn't save you. The Babylonians developed a complex military system, with soldiers trained to fight on foot, wielding spears, swords, and shields made of wood and bronze. Archers could rain arrows down from the ramparts, aiming to thin enemy ranks before they even reached the gates. You might expect warriors to be fearless heroes, but the reality was harsher. Most soldiers were farmers or laborers conscripted into service when the city needed them. Their training was rudimentary, and their armor heavy and uncomfortable in the scorching heat. As an ordinary citizen, you would have been expected to contribute, either by fighting or by supporting those who did. That meant providing food, water, and weapons, or repairing damaged walls after an attack. Everyone played a role in defense because the survival of Babylon depended on collective effort. Sieges were terrifying events. Enemies would surround the city, cutting off supplies and waiting for hunger or disease to weaken the inhabitants. You'd hear the constant thud of battering rams pounding against gates, the crash of stones hurled by catapults, and the piercing cries of battle. Inside, fear was everywhere. Food grew scarce, and sickness spread quickly. The heat, combined with exhaustion and dehydration, sapped your strength. There was no escape. The walls were your prison and your protection. Babylon's kings took warfare seriously, often leading campaigns themselves or hiring professional soldiers from mercenary bands. They understood that power wasn't just about grand palaces or mighty temples. It was about control of land, trade routes, and people. You witnessed the brutal reality of ancient warfare. It wasn't clean or honorable. It was bloody, messy, and ruthless. Civilians were often caught in the crossfire or targeted to break morale. Conquered peoples faced enslavement or exile. One famous Babylonian king, Nebuchadnezzar II, expanded the empire through relentless military campaigns. Under his rule, the city thrived but was always prepared for conflict. He invested heavily in defense infrastructure, rebuilding walls, creating vast arsenals, and training troops. You might think that with all this power, Babylon was invincible, but history tells a different story. Even the strongest cities fell, and Babylon was no exception. The Assyrians, Persians, and later Alexander the Great all challenged its dominance. As you imagine yourself in the shoes of a Babylonian citizen during wartime, the constant tension would be exhausting. No one could rest easy. Every shadow might hide an enemy. Every noise could be a warning. You realize that surviving a day here means being alert, resourceful, and resilient. And it means accepting that peace is fragile, and danger can arrive without warning. When night falls, the city doesn't quiet. Guards patrol the walls, torches flicker in the darkness, and the threat of attack lingers like a shadow over every household. You lie awake, heart pounding, knowing that tomorrow might bring battle or relief. But either way, survival depends on courage, luck, and the strength of Babylon's defenses. Imagine stepping out from the shadow of those mighty city walls into the bustling heart of Babylon, the marketplace. Here, the city truly comes alive. The air buzzes with voices bartering, haggling, shouting prices and trading stories. This is the economic engine that kept Babylon moving, raw, chaotic, and utterly essential. You might think ancient trade was simple, just a few merchants swapping goods here and there. But Babylon's economy was astonishingly complex for its time, a web of commerce stretching from the banks of the Euphrates to faraway lands like Egypt, Persia, and even the Indus Valley. As you weave through the crowd, your senses overload. The smell of fresh dates mixes with the acrid scent of bitumen, a sticky tar used for waterproofing boats and buildings. Spices from distant lands add pungent notes, while the clatter of pottery and the clink of metal coins punctuate the cacophony. Babylon wasn't just a local market town, it was a trade capital. Caravans loaded with goods arrived regularly, bringing everything from fine textiles to precious metals, livestock, grains, and luxury items like lapis lazuli stones, highly prized for jewelry. You notice traders using silver rings or bars as currency. The Babylonian shekel, a standardized weight of silver, was the backbone of their monetary system. Money here wasn't paper or coins like today, but actual weighed metal, which made every transaction a careful balancing act of scales and trust. Banks existed too. Yes, banks. Though primitive by modern standards, Babylonian merchants could deposit silver, take loans, and settle debts. You realize that financial contracts were written on clay tablets, sealed with cylinder stamps. The scribes here held immense power, controlling the records that could make or break fortunes. You try to imagine how people bargained. Maybe a fisherman trading his catch for grain or a potter exchanging fine ceramics for cloth. Everyone had a role. Farmers brought their crops, artisans sold their crafts, and wealthy merchants controlled the long-distance trade routes. But it wasn't just goods that moved through Babylon. Ideas, culture, and technology did too. Babylonian merchants were some of the first to use contracts and legal agreements, ensuring fair trade and reducing disputes. This early form of commerce law was part of what made Babylon a thriving hub. Yet, life wasn't easy. Competition was fierce. Merchants sometimes resorted to underhanded tactics, adulterating goods, cheating on weights, or bribing officials. Hammurabi's code even addressed these crimes with severe punishments, because trust was the fragile glue holding this economy together. Markets were also social spaces. People gathered not just to trade, but to share news, celebrate festivals, or hear announcements from the king's messengers. Here, politics and economy intertwined tightly. Outside the city, you find vast agricultural lands irrigated by canals, feeding Babylon's enormous population. Farmers worked tirelessly, often under harsh conditions, tied to the land by debt or obligation. If crops failed, famine loomed, threatening the whole city. Babylon's economy was also tied to its military might. Conquests opened new trade routes and brought tribute, goods, labor, and wealth extracted from conquered peoples. This influx helped fund monumental projects like the Hanging Gardens or the massive ziggurat temples. For you, a single day navigating Babylon's economy means understanding its complexity, the precarious balance between wealth and poverty, the intricate system of trust, law, and commerce that sustained one of history's greatest cities. You realize that Babylon's markets were not just places of exchange. They were the beating heart of a civilization, a testament to human ingenuity, resilience, and ambition. As the sun sets and the marketplace quiets, you step back behind the walls, tired but awed. Babylon thrived because its people dared to dream big, trade far, and build a world that shaped history. As twilight drapes over Babylon's mud brick rooftops, the city takes on a different kind of life. The noise of merchants and traders fades, replaced by the chants of priests and the rhythmic beat of drums echoing from the ziggurat, the towering temple complex reaching toward the heavens. Religion in Babylon was not just a part of life, it was its very heartbeat. You find yourself drawn to the grand Esagila temple dedicated to Marduk, Babylon's chief god. Imagine walking up the wide steps, past guards clad in leather and bronze, past crowds of worshippers bearing offerings, animals, grains, fragrant oils. The temple towers above you, its walls decorated with intricate carvings of dragons, lions, and mythical creatures guarding the sacred spaces inside. Babylonian religion was a complex tapestry woven from centuries of beliefs, myths, and rituals. It was deeply intertwined with every aspect of daily life, from the laws you obey to the crops you plant, even to your very survival. The gods were powerful beings who controlled everything: the weather, the river's flow, health, and destiny. Their favor was essential. You're about to witness the New Year festival, Akitu, the most important celebration in Babylon. It's a spectacle lasting several days, full of ritual drama, prayers, and feasts. The festival was meant to ensure the rebirth of the world, the renewal of kingship, and the blessing of the land for another year. On the first day, priests lead processions carrying statues of gods through the streets. You see crowds gathering, their faces lit by oil lamps and torches, their voices raised in hymns. The air fills with the scent of incense and burning cedar wood. You realize this isn't just a religious event, it's a political one. The king himself participates, standing before the gods, to receive their blessing and reaffirm his divine right to rule. You learn that Babylonian gods had very human personalities. They argued, loved, and fought like people, but with far more terrifying power. Marduk, the patron god, was said to have defeated Tiamat, the chaos dragon, creating the world from her shattered body. This myth symbolized order triumphing over chaos, a concept crucial to Babylonian life. Religion here was not just belief, but practice. Every day, priests performed rituals to keep the gods pleased. Temples were not just places of worship, but economic centers, owning land, managing resources, and employing dozens of people. You watch as a priest consults an omen tablet, a clay tablet inscribed with signs from the heavens, meant to predict the future. The Babylonians believed that everything had meaning, from the flight of birds to the patterns of oil spilled in water. Divination was a serious business, guiding decisions from farming to war. You can't help but notice the strict hierarchy in religious life. High priests held immense power, sometimes rivaling the king himself. They controlled access to the gods, performed sacred rites, and maintained the temple's wealth. As the festival unfolds, you see sacrifices made. Animals offered to the gods in hopes of blessings and protection. The slaughter is unsettling, but you understand it's an essential part of their worldview. Life begets life, and the gods demanded tribute. You also notice that Babylonian religion was deeply intertwined with astrology. The stars and planets were believed to be the gods' manifestations, their movements telling stories and guiding fate. Babylonian astronomers were among the first to map the night sky systematically, blending science and spirituality. But religion wasn't all solemnity. Festivals were lively, with music, dancing, feasting, and communal celebrations. These moments of joy reinforced social bonds and reminded people of their place in the cosmic order. By the end of the night, as the candles gutter and the city falls, silent, you reflect on how religion shaped every breath, every thought, every action in Babylon. It was a force as mighty as the Euphrates itself, impossible to ignore, impossible to escape. Surviving a day in Babylon means understanding this spiritual pulse, the invisible thread connecting people, gods, and the world around them. And, with that, the night wraps you gently in its quiet embrace. Imagine waking up once again, this time with the heavy weight of your social status pressing down on you like the noonday sun. In Babylon, who you were, your rank, your family, your job, dictated everything about your day. It wasn't just a simple identity, it was a rigid framework that controlled your freedoms, your rights, and even your survival. You find yourself standing in the middle of a bustling street, the sounds of chatter, haggling, children playing, and animals weaving through the crowd surround you. But you don't blend in. You are acutely aware that your place in Babylon's social hierarchy marks you, defines you, separates you. At the very top sits the king, the earthly representative of the gods. His word is law, his palace a fortress of power. Maybe you are a noble, a member of the king's court, wearing fine linen robes, adorned with jewelry, and surrounded by servants. Or maybe you are a merchant, trading goods like wool, grain, or pottery. You have some wealth, influence, and protection under the law, but most likely you are not one of the privileged few. You look down the social ladder. The middle class here consists of artisans, scribes, and small traders, skilled workers who hold some respect. You might be a potter shaping clay, a weaver spinning threads, or a scribe painstakingly pressing cuneiform into clay tablets. Being. A scribe was one of the few paths to upward mobility because literacy was rare and valuable. Further down are the laborers and farmers, the backbone of Babylon's economy. Their days are filled with backbreaking work, planting, harvesting, carrying heavy loads in the scorching heat. If you're one of them, your body aches, your hands are calloused, and you have little say in your own life. Below them, at the very bottom, are the slaves. Slavery in Babylon wasn't based solely on race or birth, but often on debt, war captivity, or punishment. As a slave, your life is not your own. You serve your master's every whim, your freedom a distant dream. You can feel the weight of these divisions in the way people interact. Nobles command, workers obey. The laws, written in stone in the Code of Hammurabi, spell out different punishments depending on your class. If a noble strikes another noble, the penalty is severe. But if a noble harms a slave, the punishment is minimal or non-existent. This inequality shapes your every choice. Walking through the marketplace, you notice how merchants loudly advertise their wares, competing fiercely for your attention. But as a poor laborer, your voice barely carries over the din. Your clothes reflect your status. The rich wear finely woven linen, dyed in vibrant colors, sometimes embroidered with gold thread. The poor wrap themselves in coarse wool or scratchy linen. Personal hygiene is limited, but those with means bathe more regularly and use scented oils. Food is another stark divider. Nobles feast on bread, meat, fish, vegetables, and beer brewed from barley. Laborers survive on simple barley porridge and occasional vegetables. Meat is rare and precious for most, often reserved for special occasions. Family life is equally structured. Patriarchy dominates. Men hold legal and economic power. Women manage households and children, but could also be merchants or priestesses, depending on their status. Marriage was often arranged, serving to secure alliances and property. Education is a privilege for the wealthy. Children of nobles or scribes attend tablet schools where they learn to read and write cuneiform. For others, education is a luxury rarely afforded. Illiteracy was common. You begin to realize how these social layers affect your daily routines, your relationships, even your chances of survival. For example, if you are a laborer, your health is fragile. Without access to good food or medicine, a simple injury or illness could be deadly. Justice is harsh and unforgiving, but it is also uneven. The famous eye for an eye rule applies differently depending on who you are. As a poor person, you might endure brutal punishments for minor offenses, while the wealthy enjoy leniency. Yet despite these divisions, Babylon is a city of bustling activity, of commerce and culture. People celebrate festivals together, worship the same gods, and strive to protect their families and homes. You start to understand that surviving a day here means knowing your place, obeying the rules, and hoping the whims of fate don't fall against you. As the sun sinks low, casting long shadows across the city walls, you feel the invisible chains of social hierarchy tighten around you. In Babylon, you are never truly free. And with that, the city prepares for another night, one where survival depends as much on who you are as on what you do. You wake up hungry again, as you do every day in Babylon. But food here isn't just about filling your stomach. It's a complex mix of survival, social signaling, and religious ritual, all tightly woven into the fabric of daily life. Let's start with the basics. Your main staple is barley. Not the fluffy toasted kind you might imagine, but a dense, heavy porridge or flatbread made from barley flour. Barley grows well in this hot climate, and it's the cheapest grain. For most Babylonians, especially laborers and slaves, this is the backbone of every meal. You find yourself sitting on the dusty ground, a low wooden bowl in your hands. The porridge is bland and gritty. You chew slowly because there's nothing to wash it down with except water, and even that can be risky. The river that nourishes Babylon is also a breeding ground for diseases. So many prefer beer. Yes, beer. Babylonians brewed beer daily, and it was a common drink for everyone, including children. It wasn't the strong stuff you find in modern bars, but a thick, porridge-like liquid. made by fermenting barley bread. Surprisingly nutritious, beer provided calories and helped purify water to some extent. You sip the sour, slightly bitter brew, feeling it warm your throat. It's strange to think of beer as a survival necessity, but here it is. If you are wealthy or a merchant, your meals are richer. You eat fresh fish from the Euphrates, lentils, onions, garlic, and occasionally dates or figs. Meat is a luxury, usually goat, lamb, or sometimes beef, reserved for feasts or important occasions. Salted or dried fish could be stored and traded. Food is cooked over open fires or in clay ovens. Pots bubble with stews of meat, vegetables, and grains. Cooking smells mingle with the marketplace's raw odors. You notice the social differences in food immediately. Nobles have elaborate feasts with servants attending to their every need. They recline on cushions, eating with their fingers or special utensils. Music and poetry entertain them while they savor honeyed wine or spiced meat. Meanwhile, the common folk eat simple meals quickly, often sitting on the floor or low stools. Food is often shared communally. Breaking bread together is a sign of trust and cooperation in this harsh world. Eating is also deeply religious. Many meals begin with prayers to gods like Enlil or Ishtar, asking for blessings on the food and protection from illness. You might see offerings left on altars before meals, small portions of bread or beer dedicated to deities. But not all food is safe. Spoiled grains, contaminated water, and flies threaten health constantly. You see people swatting at insects while trying to eat, aware that a single bite could cause dysentery or worse. Your teeth ache sometimes from the coarse grains, and stomach cramps are common. There's no modern medicine here to soothe your pain. Instead, people rely on herbs, amulets, or prayers for healing. Interestingly, certain foods carry symbolic meaning. Dates represent fertility and abundance. Garlic is thought to ward off evil spirits. Onions are both food and medicine. You also witness the contrast between scarcity and abundance. During harvest seasons or festivals, food is plentiful and the city feasts. But droughts, invasions, or poor harvests mean hunger and desperation. You can almost taste the tension in the air as merchants argue over grain prices. Farmers worry about their crops, and families ration what little they have. Meals in Babylon are more than just eating. They're survival, ritual, and a mirror of the social order. As the sun sets and the day's work ends, families gather around small fires to share whatever food they have. The warmth of companionship offers a brief comfort in an otherwise unforgiving world. You close your eyes, feeling the weight of hunger, the rough texture of barley bread on your tongue, and the sour tang of beer lingering. Tomorrow, you'll eat again. But it will never be simple. In Babylon, even food tells a story, one of struggle, resilience, and the fragile thread holding daily life together. You wake up feeling a little off, maybe a dull ache in your stomach or a tickle in your throat. In Babylon, this is a serious problem. There's no doctor on speed dial, no pharmacy down the street. Instead, healing here blends science, religion, and superstition in ways that seem strange, even unsettling, to you. To understand your health in Babylon, you need to forget modern medicine. Here, sickness is often seen not just as a physical ailment, but as a punishment from the gods or the work of malicious spirits. Imagine waking up to a world where every cough or fever might mean you've angered Enlil or fallen victim to an evil demon. You don't just take medicine, you perform rituals. The official healers, called Ashipu, are more than doctors. They are priests, exorcists, and ritual specialists. Their job is to diagnose whether your illness is caused by a physical imbalance or by supernatural forces. They read omens in animal entrails, stars, or your dreams, searching for clues. If your sickness is believed to be caused by a curse or evil spirit, the Ashipu will chant incantations, burn herbs, and perform rituals designed to banish the harmful entity You might have to wear amulets inscribed with protective symbols, or carry tiny clay tablets with prayers. Sometimes they use strange remedies that sound bizarre today. Imagine drinking a potion made from crushed beetles or applying a poultice of crushed worms to a wound. You might even have to swallow a mixture including milk, honey, and bits of a dead animal's bone. Despite all this, Babylonian medicine wasn't all superstition. They had a surprisingly detailed understanding of anatomy and wounds, at least for their time. Clay tablets show they knew how to set broken bones, treat wounds with bandages, and use various herbs like willow, a natural painkiller, and garlic, an antibiotic. Doctors, known as asu, were more practical. They examined symptoms carefully and prescribed diets, baths, and herbal medicines. They might recommend massage, steam treatments, or even surgeries for certain injuries. Yet, even these doctors worked alongside priests. You can't separate physical healing from spiritual healing here. If your heart is broken or your spirit troubled, no amount of herbs will help. Superstition permeates every part of healing. A sneeze might mean a bad omen. Seeing a black dog could signal death. To avoid evil, Babylonians carried charms, recited prayers, and avoided unlucky days. You begin to notice how deeply intertwined health and fear are. Every ache makes you wary. Every dream is scrutinized for warnings. Even your neighbor's illnesses cause anxiety. Illness might be contagious or a sign that the god's wrath is spreading. Babylonian medicine also reflected social status. Nobles and priests had access to better healers and more elaborate rituals. Common folk often relied on home remedies, passed down through generations, mixing herbs and folk magic. If you're a slave or a poor laborer, getting treatment might mean simply resting or hoping for a miracle. Sometimes, illness meant death, plain and simple. In the marketplace, you overhear women trading remedies, mixtures of herbs, prayers, and advice on warding off evil eye curses. You realize healing is as much about community as it is about the individual. And then there are the funerary rituals, not strictly medicine, but part of the cycle of life and death that shapes how Babylonians view health. Illness might be a warning from ancestors or a call to prepare for the afterlife. You start to grasp how fragile life is here. One small infection, one bad curse, and your days could be numbered. Survival depends not only on your body, but on your ability to navigate the unseen spiritual dangers. You sit quietly, imagining the weight of constant vigilance, the chants, the charms, the prayers. Babylonian medicine is a delicate dance between hope and fear. As night falls, you clutch a tiny amulet around your neck, whispering a prayer learned from a stranger you met that day. It's not about cure or science. It's about faith, protection, and the desperate will to live. You drift towards sleep, wondering how many people close their eyes each night, hoping the gods will spare them just one more day. You lie down on a thin mat, the hard mud floor beneath you barely padded by layers of woven reeds. The sun has set hours ago, but the city of Babylon doesn't exactly quiet down. The night is alive, not with the soft hum of peace, but with a restless, uneasy energy. Sleep in ancient Babylon. It's not something you take for granted. The streets outside your tiny, mud brick home are noisy, and the sounds creep in through cracks in the walls. Dogs bark in the distance, and somewhere, a baby cries endlessly. You hear the faint clatter of carts, goods being moved, animals being herded, even late into the night. The city never really sleeps. As darkness deepens, the air cools slightly, but the heat from the day still lingers, making the night sticky and uncomfortable. You feel the rough wool of your blanket prick your skin, and the faint smell of smoke from nearby fires wafts in. Babylonians didn't have bedrooms like you imagine. Many families shared a single room, and privacy was rare. If you're lucky, you might have a mat or thin mattress, but most people slept on bare floors, sometimes on raised platforms made of reed mats or wooden planks. You try to settle in, but your mind races. Night was dangerous. Thieves lurked in The alleys, wild animals sometimes wandered near the city walls, and the threat of fire was constant. You might think locks and alarms are modern inventions, but Babylonian homes had basic wooden doors and bolt systems, though nothing a determined thief couldn't bypass. So your sleep is light, your ears straining for any unusual sound. You think about the rituals before sleep. Babylonian households often performed small prayers or burned incense to protect against evil spirits that prowled at night. Spirits thought to cause nightmares, sickness, or even death. You clutch a small amulet or charm, perhaps a tiny clay tablet inscribed with protective symbols. It doesn't guarantee safety, but it brings comfort. In wealthier homes, oil lamps flicker on low tables, casting dancing shadows on mud walls painted with simple geometric patterns or religious symbols. The flickering light can be soothing, but it also draws insects and sometimes attracts unwanted attention. Outside, the sound of drums or chanting might rise from temple complexes, where priests offer nocturnal prayers to the gods. The city's spiritual heartbeat pulses through the dark. Babylonians believed sleep was a time when your soul was vulnerable, crossing into other worlds. Nightmares weren't just dreams, but warnings or attacks by malevolent spirits. Sometimes, a dream interpreter was consulted to understand messages from the gods. As you lie there, the occasional groan from a neighbor, the shuffle of feet in the alley, and the distant barking keep your senses alert. You shift, uncomfortable, on the hard floor. The heat makes your body sticky with sweat. You crave a cool breeze, but the city's layout, dense and maze-like, traps the air. You try to focus on your breathing, closing your eyes against the overwhelming sensations. The smell of dust, smoke, and animals swirls around you. Outside, in the marketplace, some merchants rest while others prepare for the next day's early trading. The city's rhythm never truly slows. You think about the children sleeping nearby, how they might be comforted by lullabies sung softly in a language you don't understand, or perhaps they are left to cry themselves to sleep as their parents work or keep watch. Babylonians often slept in shifts, especially guards or those responsible for protecting goods. It was a city alive with tension and the need for constant vigilance. As minutes pass, your body grows heavy, your mind wandering through the countless stories of those who have tried and failed to find rest in this restless city. You imagine the merchants who barely slept, worried about thieves, stealing their goods, the slaves who rested only in stolen moments, forever on edge, the priests who stayed awake to perform sacred rites through the night. Despite all this, life goes on. Babies are born, lovers whisper in the dark, and dreams take flight, some pleasant, many terrifying. Your eyes finally close fully. The city's noises become a lullaby of distant drums, occasional voices, and the steady rhythmic breathing of your family. You drift, uneasy but protected by the rituals and charms you carry, clinging to the hope of seeing the sunrise. Because in Babylon, each night survived is a small victory. The first light of dawn creeps over the flat rooftops of Babylon, turning the sky a dusty pink. You awaken with a start, your body stiff and aching from the hard, uneven floor. The heat is already beginning to build. The sun's climb promises another long, grueling day. You rub your eyes, try to stretch, but your muscles protest. Sleeping on the bare ground is nothing like your soft modern bed, and your skin itches from the dust that has settled over you in the night. Outside, the city is waking too, but much faster, much louder, and far less forgiving than anything you know. The streets will soon fill with merchants shouting over the clatter of carts, children chasing each other through narrow alleys, and the bleating of goats heading to pasture. You're reminded, almost painfully, that in Babylon, life is survival. Every day is work. Every breath, a battle against dust, heat, and exhaustion. You get up, brushing dirt from your rough linen tunic. Your feet hit the cold morning mud, sticky and uneven beneath you. A quick sip of water from a clay jug, cool but gritty, barely soothes your parched throat. The Euphrates River isn't far, but you know better than to drink directly, without boiling or filtering. Diseases like dysentery and cholera lurk in unclean water, and Babylon's sanitation system is primitive at best. You make your way to the courtyard, where your family is already preparing for the day. The women grind grain with stone tools, producing coarse flour for flatbread. The men gather tools for work or head to the city gates if they're merchants or guards. You have a role too, though you're not sure how long you'll last. Perhaps working in the fields outside the city, or hauling bricks for new construction, or even serving in the bustling markets. Each job is exhausting, dangerous, and offers little reward. The sun climbs higher, and the air grows thick and heavy. Dust swirls in the warm breeze, coating everything in a fine film of dirt. Your throat burns with each breath. Your eyes water. You long for the shade of the palm trees along the riverbank, but the city's layout leaves few places untouched by the sun's harsh glare. You watch as a cart laden with clay bricks rattles past. The laborers push and pull with worn hands, muscles bulging under sweaty skin. Their faces are grim, no smiles, no relief. Only focus on the task ahead. The marketplace is a cacophony of noise and smells. Merchants hawk dried fish, spices, and textiles, their voices sharp and insistent. The pungent odor of dried dates and fermented fish mingles with the ever-present dust. You try to focus on your task, but the heat is relentless. Sweat drips down your back, soaking the rough fabric of your tunic. You long for a breeze, a drop of cool water, a moment's rest. But there is none. The sun reaches its zenith, turning the city into a furnace. The mud brick walls radiate heat, and even the river seems to shimmer with the day's intensity. You shield your eyes, feeling the sting of sunburn creeping over your skin. Babylon's inhabitants have adapted as best they can. Simple linen garments protect them from the sun. Some carry woven hats or use palm leaves for shade, but none are immune to the brutal climate. Despite the hardship, the city thrives. Massive walls enclose neighborhoods. Ziggurats rise toward the heavens, and irrigation channels bring precious water to parched fields. Life here is tough, but it is life, and you must endure it. As afternoon approaches, you find a brief respite in the shadow of a temple wall. The air is cooler here, and the stone feels solid and reassuring beneath your hand. You close your eyes for a moment, the sounds of the city fading into a distant murmur. But you know that soon, you must return to work. The day will not wait, and neither will the demands of survival. You wonder if you could ever truly belong here. Could you adapt to this world of heat, dust, and endless labor? Or would you be yet another weary soul lost to the unforgiving sands of time? The sun begins its slow descent, and with it, the promise of night, of rest, of relief. But for now, you stand firm, ready to face whatever the day will bring. As the blistering sun sinks beneath the horizon, painting the sky in shades of burnt orange and purple, a strange quiet settles over Babylon. The relentless heat fades, replaced by the cooler, heavier air of evening. But the city doesn't truly rest. Not yet. You find yourself standing in a dusty street, the day's exhaustion weighing down your limbs. Your skin still prickles with grit and sweat, your throat dry from the day's relentless dust. You glance up at the thick mud brick walls, their shadows stretching long and eerie under the fading light. The day's noise, the shouting merchants, bleating animals, clattering carts, has softened to distant murmurs. But a new kind of sound takes its place. The rhythmic beating of drums, low chanting, and the flickering crackle of oil lamps, lighting up homes and temples alike. Babylon, for all its hardships, has always been a city of ritual. The people believe that the night is when the unseen forces stir, gods, demons, spirits, all watching, judging, protecting, or punishing. And you are painfully aware that in this ancient world, fear and faith are inseparable. You watch as a procession forms near the central ziggurat. Men and women dressed in fine robes carry offerings of bread, beer, and incense. The high priest's voice rises, chanting prayers in a language you can't understand. But the emotion, hope, desperation, reverence, is unmistakable. You wonder if joining such a ritual would grant you some protection. But you are an outsider. Your presence would be met with suspicion or worse. In Babylon, strangers rarely go unnoticed, especially after dark. As the oil lamps flicker, casting dancing shadows on the walls, families gather inside their homes. You catch glimpses through tiny windows. A mother rocking her child, a group of men playing a board game with small carved pieces, and elderly couples sharing a simple meal by candlelight. Outside, the city's streets grow emptier, but they do not become safe. The night carries dangers, thieves, wild animals, even curses invoked by jealous neighbors or spiteful spirits. The city's laws and guards have less power under the cover of darkness. You pull your rough cloak tighter, feeling the chill creeping in with the night air. Despite the fear, the night also brings a strange kind of comfort. A pause in the endless demands of the day, a chance to breathe, to reflect, to rest. You find a quiet corner near a well, where the water's surface gleams faintly under the stars. The noise of the city seems to fade further here. You sit, letting your body relax, your eyes growing heavy. As your breathing slows and the world around you softens into shadows, you realize that surviving in Babylon isn't just about enduring the harsh sun or the difficult work. It's also about navigating the unseen, the spiritual and emotional landscape of a city bound by belief and tradition. And tonight, as the city sleeps fitfully beneath a blanket of stars, you will dream of gods and demons, of distant rivers and dusty streets, of a life so far removed from your own. You close your eyes, your body sinking into the thin, scratchy mat that's your bed. The night sounds, the crackle of distant fires, the occasional hoot of an owl, the soft murmur of voices behind mud-brick walls, fade into a steady, rhythmic hum. But your mind is far from calm. In ancient Babylon, dreams were not just random, images flickering behind closed eyelids. No, they were considered messages, divine warnings, blessings, or curses, from gods and spirits beyond your understanding. Every twitch, every shadow in your dreamscape could hold meaning. You feel yourself drifting, the heat of the day finally ebbing as your breathing deepens. Suddenly, the images start to form. You see vast rivers swelling and overflowing, muddy waters, sweeping away homes and fields, a vision of destruction and loss. The river gods must be angry, you think. You've heard the elders say that if you dream of floods, it's a sign to prepare for hard times. Then, a figure appears, tall, robed in shimmering light, holding a staff carved with strange symbols. You want to speak, to ask what this vision means, but your mouth is dry and silent. The figure's eyes bore into you. There is no anger, but a deep, unsettling calm, a reminder that your fate is not in your hands. Your heart races as the dream shifts. You're now in the crowded streets, surrounded by faces, merchants bartering loudly, children running and laughing, priests chanting prayers. But something is wrong. The colors are muted, the sounds distant, like you're underwater. A shadow slips between the crowd, a dark shape that moves too fast, too silent. You try to call out, but no sound comes. Fear grips you. This is no ordinary dream. It feels like a warning. You wake suddenly, sweat beading your forehead. The room is dark except for the faint glow of a dying oil lamp. Your heart pounds in your chest. In Babylon, such dreams were taken seriously. Priests and diviners would interpret them, sometimes with elaborate rituals to appease angry gods or protect the dreamer. You realize that sleep here is not a safe escape, but a doorway to the unknown. Despite the fear, your body longs for rest. You lie back down, willing yourself to return to sleep, to the dreams that might tell you your future or protect you from unseen dangers. The night stretches on, thick and endless. Outside, the city breathes quietly, shadows moving like whispers on the walls. You wonder, as your eyelids grow heavy once more, what dreams await you when you close your eyes again. The first light of dawn seeps slowly into your small, cramped room. It's not a gentle morning as you might imagine from peaceful sunrise pictures. Instead, the light is harsh, relentless, filtering through cracks in the mud brick walls and stabbing your tired eyes awake. Your body aches, every joint stiff, every muscle sore. Sleep has been uneasy, filled with shadowy warnings and restless dreams, but now the day demands your attention again. You sit up slowly on your mat, feeling the coarse fabric scratch against your skin. The air is already thick, humid, heavy with the scent of last night's embers and the faint, sour tang of fermented dates left from yesterday's meal. Outside, the city is already stirring. You hear footsteps on the packed earth outside your door, a rooster's distant crow, and the faint clatter of pots and pans. The city breathes in rhythm with its people, an ancient pulse that never really stops. Today, like every day, you must prepare yourself. Survival isn't a guarantee in Babylon. It's a constant battle waged in sweat, grit, and patience. Your first challenge is water. You think back to yesterday's well, the one you dared not drink from without caution. Water is life, but here it is also risk. You must find water that's clean, or at least less deadly. Maybe you can trade for some from a vendor or ask a neighbor. But you know the currency of survival isn't gold here. It's trust and favors, fragile as the morning light. As you wash your face with cool water, damp cloth rubbing dirt from your skin, you see the marks of the city's relentless labor in every corner of your reflection. Dirt under your fingernails, sunburnt skin, tired eyes that have seen too much. You dress in your rough linen tunic, pulling it over your head and tying it tight at the waist. It's scratchy, but it's all you have. Outside, the streets pulse with life. Merchants set up their stalls, shouting prices in tongues you don't understand. The smell of baking bread mixes with the sharp tang of livestock and the faint smoke of cooking fires. Flies buzz incessantly, drawn to every surface. You make your way to the marketplace, your bare feet kicking up dust with every step. The heat is already rising, even though it's early. You swallow hard, reminding yourself to keep moving, keep blending in. At the market, every transaction is a negotiation, a test of patience and strength. You barter for bread and dates, struggling to find enough for the day. The vendors watch you carefully. Outsiders are rare and sometimes unwelcome. You realize your clothes, your skin, your every gesture marks you as different. Your stomach growls again, reminding you of the day's hunger that's waiting just beneath the surface. As you leave the market, you catch sight of children running. Through the alleys, their laughter a sharp contrast to the hard world around them. You envy their innocence, knowing how quickly the city strips it away. Your thoughts drift to the day ahead, the work, the heat, the unspoken dangers. You remind yourself, every day survived is a victory. You find a shady spot under a crumbling wall, sitting down to rest for a moment. The sun climbs higher, beating down mercilessly, but you hold still, catching your breath. For now, the city holds its breath too, a fragile pause before the chaos of the midday heat. And you, somehow, prepare to face it again. You sit quietly now, your day in Babylon drawing to a close. The sun has begun its slow descent, painting the sky in shades of burnt orange and deepening purple. The city, which seemed so loud and overwhelming just hours ago, now hums softly under the twilight. As the shadows lengthen, your mind wanders to the weight of time, the thousands of years that have passed since this place thrived with gods, kings, merchants, and ordinary people like you. You think about the walls, the mighty mud brick fortresses that once protected this city, now crumbling into dust. The ziggurat towering above, a reminder of humankind's desire to reach the heavens, to touch the divine. You wonder about the people who lived here, their hopes, fears, dreams, and the daily struggles you've glimpsed through this day's journey. In Babylon, life was never easy. Every breath was earned, every step was fought for. The laws you heard about, written on stone tablets, were harsh but fair, a system designed to hold order in a world that could so easily spiral into chaos. And, yet, in the midst of hardship, there was beauty. Art carved into clay, stories whispered at twilight, music that filled the streets, and festivals where the city danced in the name of the gods. You realize that survival here was not just about avoiding danger, but about belonging, finding your place in a complex tapestry of family, religion, and community. You, the outsider, struggled with that belonging, and perhaps that's why you didn't survive a day. But there is a strange comfort in this reflection. The city, with all its flaws and challenges, shaped the course of human history. The laws of Hammurabi influenced justice for millennia. The myths and stories birthed in these streets still echo in the tales we tell today. And now, as you prepare to leave this ancient world behind, you carry with you something more than memories. You carry understanding, of resilience, of humanity's unyielding spirit in the face of adversity, and the deep, unspoken bond that connects us all across time. You breathe deeply, the night cool against your skin. The city settles into darkness, stars beginning to prick the sky. And as you close your eyes, ready to drift into sleep, you know one thing for sure. You wouldn't survive a day in ancient Babylon, but maybe, just maybe, you've survived the story. As the night wraps its quiet arms around the ancient city, you feel a deep connection to a world so distant, yet so profoundly human. Babylon wasn't just a place of laws and labor, gods and dust. It was a living, breathing testament to resilience, to the everyday struggles that shape who we are. Though you wouldn't survive a day here, in that harsh, unforgiving world, you've glimpsed something far greater, the endurance of the human spirit, the stories that outlast empires, and the shared heartbeat of history itself. So as you drift into sleep tonight, carry this journey with you, a reminder that every moment, every breath we take is a victory. And perhaps through understanding the past, we find strength to face our own days, no matter how challenging they may be. If you found yourself lost in this story, if the dust and heat of Babylon lingered in your mind, please make sure to subscribe and join us for more journeys into the forgotten corners of history, where every story matters and every moment is a chance to learn, reflect, and dream. Thank you for traveling through time with me. Until next time, rest well and let the echoes of Babylon's past lull you into a peaceful night.